Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into something that's pretty fundamental to all of us.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Personality. Specifically, what makes you you.
The age-old question.
Exactly. And our roadmap for this deep dive is an article called Exploring the Depths of Human Personality, an Exhaustive Guide.
Okay, and where's this guide from?
It's from a website called The Spiritual Seek.
I've seen that site. They've got tons of personality tests and quizzes and things, right?
Yeah, they do. So we'll be using this article to unpack some of the big ideas around personality.
Sounds like a good plan. I'm ready to unpack.
Me too. By the end of this deep dive, we'll not only understand these different personality theories, but we'll also have some tools to start exploring our own personalities.
Awesome. So where do we start? What is personality anyway? I mean, we use the word all the time, but what does it actually mean?
Right. It's one of those things we think we know, but when you really try to define it, it gets kind of tricky.
Totally. Like, how do you explain what makes you you?
Well, the article defines personality as the mix of stuff going on inside, our internal characteristics, i.e. our outward actions, our external behaviors, and it's the unique combination of those things that makes each of us different.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like, on the one hand, it's my thoughts and feelings, and then on the other, it's how I act in the world.
Yeah. And they make this distinction between what they call primary and secondary traits.
Oh, interesting. So primary versus secondary, what's the difference there?
Think of it this way.
Okay.
Like, are you naturally drawn to being around lots of people?
Yeah.
Or do you prefer to recharge by yourself?
Oh, man, definitely need that alone time.
Right. So that inclination toward being alone, that would be a primary trait.
Gotcha. So it's like the foundation of who you are.
Exactly. It's like the bedrock. And then you've got secondary traits. Those are more like,
The details.
yeah, they come out in specific situations. So like, I might be generally easygoing, but put me in a game, any game, and I suddenly get super competitive.
Ah, I see. So those competitive instincts, that's a secondary trait because it only pops up in certain contexts.
Exactly. And it's a combination of these primary and secondary traits that make each of us so complex,
Yeah.
right? Like a one-of-a-kind recipe.
It's like that old saying, there's no one else quite like you. But how do we even begin to understand all these different pieces?
Well, that's where these personality theories come in.
And lucky for us, the article takes us on a whirlwind tour of some of the biggest ones out there.
It's like we're going to try on all these different lenses to see personality from every angle.
Love that. All right, what's the first lens?
First up, we've got Carl Jung.
Jung! Yeah, he's like a giant in the field of psychology.
So what's Jung's take on personality?
Well, his theory is all about these pairs of opposites.
Oh, opposites attract? Lay it on me.
Well, not quite attract, but more like they define the spectrum of personality. So first, you've got extraversion versus introversion.
Ah, yeah, I've heard of that one. So extroverts get their energy from being around people, right?
Right. They love being social, being in the spotlight. And introverts, well, they're more like us. We need that quiet time to recharge.
Introverts unite. Okay, what's the next pair of opposites?
Next up is sensing versus intuition.
Okay, so break that one down for me.
It's all about how you take in information. Sensing types, they're focused on the concrete details, what they can see and hear and touch. Intuitive types are more big-picture thinkers, always looking for patterns and possibilities.
So if I'm always daydreaming about the future, I'm probably more on the intuitive side.
Sounds like it. And then the last pair is thinking versus feeling.
Ooh, I could see how that one could be a big factor in personality.
It's all about how you make decisions. Thinking types are driven by logic and objective analysis. Feeling types put more emphasis on values, empathy, how their decisions will affect other people.
So if I agonize over every decision because I'm worried about hurting someone's feelings.
That's the feeling side coming out.
Okay, so Jung says we all have preferences across these three pairs. It's not like you're 100% one or the other.
Right, and the unique blend of those preferences creates your specific personality.
It's starting to feel like a personality puzzle, all these pieces fitting together.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of puzzle pieces, Jung also talked about these things called archetypes.
Archetypes. Okay, now you've got me intrigued.
They're like these universal patterns or roles that we see reflected in ourselves and in the world around us.
So like the hero or the villain.
Exactly. And Jung believed that these archetypes live in what he called the collective unconscious.
Hold on, the collective unconscious. Explain that one.
It's kind of like this deep well of shared human experience, these universal symbols and patterns that we all inherit.
Whoa, that's deep. So are you saying we each embody these archetypes in different ways?
That's the idea. It's like having a unique combination of these archetypal energies within you, influencing how you see yourself, how you interact with others.
Fascinating. Is there a way to know which archetypes are strongest in our own personalities?
Well, the article has a link to a Jungian archetype test. You could check that out later.
Definitely adding that to my to-do list. Okay, so that's Jung with his opposites and his archetypes. What other personality theories are out there?
Next, we've got the Enneagram.
Enneagram. Okay. Tell me about that one.
It's a system that outlines 9 interconnected personality types, each with its own strengths and weaknesses.
9. We're going to need a bigger whiteboard.
Don't worry, we won't go into each type in detail right now. But the key here is that each type has a core motivation and a core fear.
So it's about understanding what drives you, but also what you're afraid of.
Exactly. For example, you have the perfectionist.
The perfectionist. Okay, I know a few of those.
They're driven by the need to be good, to be right. But their core fear is being flawed, making a mistake.
That fear can be paralyzing, right?
Absolutely. And there are 8 other types, each with its own unique set of motivations and fears. Like the helper, driven by the need to be loved, but afraid of being unworthy.
Interesting. So understanding your Enneagram type could help you work through those fears.
That's the idea. It's about self-awareness and growth. And of course, the article has a link to a mini Enneagram test you can take.
I'm sensing a theme here. Lots of personality quizzes.
We'll get to those later. For now, ready for our next personality framework.
Yeah, hit me.
This one is called the Big Five, sometimes called Ocean.
Ocean. Like the ocean.
Yeah, it's an acronym for the 5 main traits it focuses on. Openness to experience, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
Okay, ocean. Got it. Now break down those 5 for me.
Well, openness is about being open to new things, new ideas, new experiences. How adventurous are you? Do you like trying new foods, traveling to new places?
I'm all about new experiences. The more, the merrier.
Sounds like you're high on openness. Next is conscientiousness. This one is all about organization, discipline, being reliable. Are you a planner or more spontaneous?
Oh, definitely more spontaneous, though. I'm trying to get better at planning.
We're all works in progress. Now, extroversion we already talked about with Jung, so we can skip that one.
Makes sense.
Agreeableness is about how you relate to others. Are you cooperative, empathetic?
I like to think I am. I try to be kind and considerate.
And last, we've got neuroticism, which sounds a bit intense, but it's really about how emotionally stable you are. Do you worry a lot, or are you pretty even-keeled?
I have my moments, but overall I'd say I'm pretty laid back.
So, low on neuroticism. Got it. And remember, these 5 traits, it's not about being one or the other. We all fall somewhere on the spectrum for each one.
So it's like a 5-slider control panel for your personality.
Exactly. And the article also has a Big 5 mini test if you want to see where you land.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
All right, what's our final personality framework? I'm feeling like a personality expert at this point.
Doing great. Last but not least, we have the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, or MBTI.
Oh, the MBTI. I feel like everyone has taken that test at some point.
It's super popular, especially in workplaces.
What's the MBTI all about?
It's actually based on Jung's theory, but it expands on it to create 16 personality types, each with a 4-letter code.
Remind me, what were Jung's 3 pairs again?
Extraversion, introversion, sensing intuition, and thinking feeling. The MBTI adds 1 more pair, judging versus perceiving.
Okay, judging versus perceiving. What does that one mean?
It's about how you approach the outside world. Judging types are structured, organized, like to make plans. Perceiving types are more flexible, adaptable. They like to keep their options open.
So if I'm a list maker, a planner, I'm probably a judging type.
Sounds like it. But remember, it's all about preferences. We all have a bit of judging and perceiving within us.
Right, right. Okay, so you take those 4 pairs and mix them up, and that's how you get the 16 MBTI types, each with its 4-letter code.
Exactly. So you might be an INTJ or an ESFP or any other combination.
And knowing your type can help you in, like, your career or your relationships.
Yeah, exactly. It can help you understand your strengths, your weaknesses, how you work best with others.
And I'm guessing there's a link to an MBTI test in the article.
Of course. It's called the world's quickest MBTI assessment, just in case you're short on time but still curious.
Perfect. Okay, so we've covered Jung, the Enneagram, the Big 5, and the MBTI. That's a lot of personality frameworks.
It is. But hopefully it's giving you a better understanding of what personality is and how we try to make sense of it.
It definitely is. But before we get to those mini tests you mentioned, I have a question.
Sure.
Why does all this even matter? I mean, it's fun to think about, but how does knowing about personality actually impact our lives?
That's a great question, and it leads us perfectly into our next topic, the real-world implications of personality.
Okay, let's dive into that in part 2.
So you're asking why personality matters.
Yeah, like it's cool to learn about all these theories and frameworks, but does it actually make a difference in real life?
Oh, it definitely can. Think of it like this. Your personality, it's kind of like the operating system that runs your life. It affects how you think, how you feel, how you behave, how you interact with the world.
Okay, so it's not just some abstract concept.
Not at all. It impacts everything.
Okay, so like how? Give me some examples.
Well, for starters, your career. Choosing a job that aligns with your personality can make a huge difference in how much you enjoy it and how successful you are.
That makes sense. Like, someone who loves being around people probably wouldn't be very happy stuck in a lab all day.
Exactly. And it's not just about being happy, it's about playing to your strengths. For example, if you're super organized and detail-oriented, maybe a job that involves lots of planning and structure would be a good fit.
So self-awareness is key, right? Knowing your strengths, but also your weaknesses.
Absolutely. And that self-awareness is crucial in relationships, too.
Relationships? How so?
Well, imagine one partner is super extroverted, loves to socialize, while the other is more introverted, needs lots of alone time. If they don't understand those differences,
It could lead to some serious conflict, right?
big time.
Yeah.
And it's not just about introversion and extroversion. Understanding each other's communication styles, how you handle conflict, your emotional needs, all of that plays into building healthy relationships.
Like personality awareness is the secret to good relationships.
I like that. And we can't forget about health. There are links between personality traits and both physical and mental well-being.
Really? So like someone who's super anxious might be more likely to get sick.
There's some evidence for that,
Hmm.
and vice versa. People who are optimistic and resilient might recover from illness more easily. There are also links between personality and health behaviors.
What do you mean?
Well, people who score high on conscientiousness, they tend to take better care of themselves, exercise more, eat healthier, that sort of thing.
While those of us who are more impulsive might struggle with bad habits.
It's a pattern that shows up in research. So you see, personality, it's not just this abstract thing. It impacts so many aspects of our lives.
It really is like this underlying code influencing everything.
Exactly. So going back to those mini self-assessment tests you mentioned earlier, the conformist test and the narcissist test.
Yeah.
Before we dive into those, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on personality tests in general?
Well, I think they can be fun
Hmm.
and maybe even insightful. But I also wonder, how accurate can they really be? Like, can a test really capture all the complexity of a human being?
That's the million-dollar question. And the truth is, no test is perfect. Personality is complex.
So we shouldn't take these tests too seriously.
Exactly. They're tools. A starting point for self-reflection, not a final judgment.
So use them with a grain of salt.
Exactly. Don't let a test define you. Okay, ready to dive into the mini tests?
Let's do it.
Which one do you want to tackle first? The conformist test or the narcissist test?
Let's start with the conformist test.
Mhm.
I want to see how I measure up on the whole going with the flow versus doing my own thing scale.
All right. Remember, this is all in good fun.
Of course.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening, grab a pen and paper or just keep track in your head as we go through the statements.
Okay, first statement, the majority is always right. Agree or disagree?
I'd have to disagree. History is full of examples where the majority was totally wrong. It's important to think for yourself.
Couldn't agree more. Blindly following the crowd, that's how you end up with all sorts of problems.
Okay, next statement. If everyone does it, it means it's not entirely wrong.
I don't know about that one. Just because something is common doesn't make it right. Think about, like, all the harmful social norms that have existed.
That's a really good point. It's important to evaluate things for yourself.
Absolutely. Okay, statement number 3. Being alone for a long time makes me uncomfortable.
Oh, this one's more personal, right? Some people love being alone, others hate it.
Totally depends on your personality. No right or wrong answer there.
Okay, statement number 4. Going against the current is foolish. Better to go with the flow.
Now this one, I think there's some wisdom in both sides, right?
Yeah. How do you know when to adapt and when to stand your ground?
It's a tricky balance. Okay, 2 more statements. Number 5. I consider the opinion that other people have about me to be crucial.
It's natural to care what others think, but it shouldn't be everything, right?
Exactly. Ultimately, you have to value yourself for who you are, not just for what others think.
Okay, and the final statement. I quickly adapt to the customs and behaviors of the place where I am.
That's a useful skill for sure, especially if you travel a lot.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've gone through all 6 statements. Now it's time to tally up your score. 0 means you're not conformist at all. 1 or 2 means you're hardly conformist. 3 or 4 means you're quite conformist. And 5 or 6 means you're totally conformist.
Where did you land on the scale?
I think I'm somewhere in the hardly conformist category. What about you?
Oh, I'm definitely not conformist at all. But remember, this is just a lighthearted exercise.
Exactly. It's just for fun.
Okay.
Ready for the narcissist test?
Let's do it. Time to put those egos on trial.
All right, first statement. I definitely feel special compared to everyone else.
Well, everyone is special in their own way, but believing you're superior to others, that's where things get tricky.
Yeah, a healthy dose of confidence is good, but too much can be a problem. Okay, next statement. I despise people who get more admiration than I do.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Jealousy and resentment, not healthy emotions.
Agreed. Okay, statement number 3. I feel annoyance when I cannot be the center of attention.
We all like attention sometimes, but if you constantly need to be in the spotlight, that could be a sign of insecurity, right?
Interesting. Next statement. I love talking about myself and being listened to by people.
I mean, who doesn't? But it's all about balance, right?
Yep, you got to listen to. Okay, 2 more statements to go. Number 5. I often imagine myself doing great things and becoming famous.
Having big dreams is great. But if those dreams are only about fame and recognition, maybe it's worth digging a little deeper, asking yourself, what truly matters to you?
Deep stuff. And the final statement. I don't really care much about the problems of family and acquaintances.
That one's a bit alarming. Empathy is so important if you can't relate to other people's struggles.
Yeah, that's not a good sign. Okay, time to tally up your agreements. 0 means you're most certainly not a narcissist. 1 or 2 means you show some signs of narcissism. 3 or 4 means you're quite narcissistic. And 5 or 6 means you're probably a narcissist.
All right, how did you score?
I'm happy to report that I'm definitely in the not a narcissist category. What about you?
Same here. But again, these are just informal tests, right? Not a clinical diagnosis.
Exactly. Just a little food for thought.
Speaking of food for thought, remember those full-length personality tests we mentioned earlier? The ones linked in the article?
You mean the Jungian archetype test, the Enneagram personality test, the Big 5 personality test, and the world's quickest MBTI assessment.
Those are the ones, remember. Approach them with curiosity, not judgment.
They're tools for self-discovery, not labels to box yourself in.
Exactly. What's cool is that personality isn't fixed. It's not set in stone.
So we can change. We can grow.
Absolutely. Our personalities are shaped by our experiences, our relationships, our choices. It's a lifelong journey.
I love that. It's not about finding the perfect label, but about embracing the journey of becoming more self-aware.
And understanding what makes us unique.
All right, so before we wrap up this part, is there anything else you want to add about these personality tests?
Just a reminder that they're a starting point. Don't let the results define you. Use them to explore, to learn, to grow.
Love that. So we've spent the last 2 parts talking all about personality, what it is, why it matters, and all those different theories.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground, from Jung to the Enneagram to the Big 5 and the MBTI.
My brain is officially full of personality knowledge.
Mine too. But before we wrap things up, I thought it might be fun to revisit those mini self-assessment tests from the article.
You mean the conformist test and the narcissist test?
Those are the ones, remember, these are just for fun, not a clinical evaluation or anything.
Of course, just a lighthearted way to explore some of these concepts.
Exactly. So let's jump right in.
All right, let's do it. And for our listeners out there, grab a pen and paper or just follow along mentally as we go through the statements.
Okay, so for the conformist test, the first statement is, the majority is always right. What do you think?
I'd have to disagree with that one.
Me too. History is full of examples where the majority was completely wrong.
Yeah, going along with the crowd doesn't always lead you in the right direction.
Exactly. Independent thinking is key. All right, next statement. If everyone does it, it means it's not entirely wrong.
I'm going to push back on that one too.
Same here.
Just because something is popular or widely accepted doesn't automatically make it morally or ethically sound.
You got it. We got to think critically, not just follow the herd mentality. All right, moving on to statement number 3. Being alone for a long time makes me uncomfortable.
Now, this one is definitely more personal.
Yeah, sure.
Some people love solitude, while others crave constant social interaction. There's no right or wrong answer here.
Exactly. It all depends on your individual personality and preferences. All right, next up. Going against the current is foolish. Better to go with the flow.
This is an interesting one because I think there's a time and a place for both.
Totally agree.
Sometimes it's wise to be adaptable and go with the flow, but other times it's essential to stand up for what you believe in, even if it means going against the grain.
It's about finding that balance between flexibility and conviction. Well said. 2 more statements to go. Statement number 5. I consider the opinion that other people have about me to be crucial.
Well, I think it's natural to care what others think to some extent, but our self-worth shouldn't be entirely dependent on external validation.
I agree. It's important to value yourself for who you are, regardless of what other people think. And finally, statement number 6. I quickly adapt to the customs and behaviors of the place where I am.
This sounds like a valuable skill, especially if you travel a lot or interact with people from diverse cultures.
Definitely. Being able to adjust to different social norms and expectations can make life a lot smoother.
Okay, so we've gone through all 6 statements for the conformist test. Now it's time to add up your score.
Don't forget, 0 means you're not conformist at all. 1 or 2 means you're hardly conformist. 3 or 4 means you're quite conformist. And 5 or 6 means you're totally conformist.
All right, where did everyone land on the scale?
I'm curious to hear where you fall.
Well, based on my answers, I think I'm somewhere in the hardly conformist range. I value my independence, but I also recognize the importance of social harmony.
Makes sense. As for me, I'm definitely in the not conformist at all category.
No surprise there. Okay, are you ready to tackle the narcissist test?
Bring it on. Let's see how our egos measure up.
All right, first statement. I definitely feel special compared to everyone else.
It's great to feel confident and recognize your unique qualities, but believing you're inherently superior to others, well, that's where things can go wrong.
Exactly. A healthy sense of self is important, but it shouldn't come at the expense of devaluing others.
Okay, next statement. I despise people who get more admiration than I do.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Envy and resentment are never healthy emotions.
Definitely not. It's important to be able to celebrate the successes of others without feeling diminished yourself. All right, statement number 3. I feel annoyance when I cannot be the center of attention.
We all like attention sometimes, but if you constantly need to be the center of attention, it could be a sign of insecurity.
It's all about finding a healthy balance. Enjoying attention is fine, but a constant need for validation can become problematic. Okay, next statement. I love talking about myself and being listened to by people.
Most people enjoy talking about themselves to some extent, but it's important to remember that good communication is a two-way street.
Exactly. Listening is just as important as talking back.
All right, 2 more statements to go. Statement number 5. I often imagine myself doing great things and becoming famous.
Having dreams and aspirations is fantastic. But if those fantasies are solely focused on fame and external validation, it might be worth exploring your motivations a bit deeper.
Great point. What truly brings you a sense of purpose and fulfillment? And finally, statement number 6. I don't really care much about the problems of family and acquaintances.
That's a bit concerning. Empathy and compassion are essential for healthy relationships. If you find yourself consistently dismissing or minimizing the struggles of others, that's something to pay attention to.
Agreed. Okay, time to tally up your agreements for the narcissist test. Remember, 0 means you're most certainly not a narcissist. 1 or 2 means you show some signs of narcissism. 3 or 4 means you're quite narcissistic. And 5 or 6 means you're probably a narcissist. So how did everyone score?
I'm pretty confident I'm in the not a narcissist category. What about you?
Same here. I think we both passed that test with flying colors. But again, these are just for fun and self-reflection, not clinical diagnoses.
Exactly. They're meant to be thought-provoking, not definitive.
So, we've come to the end of our deep dive into the fascinating world of personality.
We've explored different theories, discussed why understanding personality matters, and even had some fun with those mini self-assessment tests.
It's been quite a journey.
It has, and I hope our listeners have gained some valuable insights along the way.
Me too. Remember, folks, personality is a complex and multifaceted thing. It's what makes each of us unique and special.
It influences how we navigate the world, how we relate to others, and even how we view ourselves.
So keep exploring, stay curious, and embrace the ever-evolving wonder that is you.
And for those who are eager to continue this journey of self-discovery, don't forget to check out those full-length personality tests linked in the article.
They're a great resource for diving even deeper into this fascinating topic.
Absolutely. Until next time, happy exploring.